thanks for everybody for joining, and welcome to the panel discussion on Africa's startup ecosystem. First off, I'm really excited to kind of maybe provide a little bit more intro to our fantastic panelists. I'll start, Marijan, with you at the end as the tech community manager. One very important aspect, I think everybody knows Infobip's story, but when it comes to Infobip's presence in Africa, they have 10 offices on the continent, which in essence means that they have more offices on the continent than Google. They are the only tech company on the continent that really kind of consistently works with the tech community across the spectrum. And they receive numerous awards on working on tech and dev in the region. Second here, we have Menna Shahin. She's the co-founder of Tekea. Fantastic example of how a successful startup out of Africa manages to really kind of scale and grow on the global market. And hopefully Menna gets to share a little bit more about that. Lastly, I have Antonio. Antonio is, I would say, a perfect example again on someone who works on two very increasing rising aspects of the global startup ecosystem, Southeast Asia and Africa. Over half of their clients are from Africa. And Antonio has this very kind of cool insight in not only how the market in Africa is growing, but also you can provide a little bit of comparison between the two different markets. With that said, I'm going to kick it off with a question for Marijan. Marijan, you have this fantastic experience of working with the startup tribe and the meetups that you've been arranging in Africa. To kind of set it as a scene in terms of the kind of the macro level aspects, what do you see as some of the positive trends from working with young founders, young startup teams in Africa?
So first of all, hi to everyone. If you don't mind, I will just extend a little bit intro to give you the context why I sit here. So I'm Marijan, I'm tech community manager at the Infobip. I'm actually by profession historian, did a couple of twists in career, and last year ended up running tech community meetups at DevRel department in Infobip. So yeah, we actually did lots of events so far in Africa, meetups, tech community meetups. So we had like startup and developer speakers. So we had events in all parts of Africa. First one we had in Lagos, then we had one in Accra, then we had a couple of tours, covered Kenya, Uganda, Cairo, Casablanca. And yeah, we are actually having upcoming tour next October, where we will cover again Kenya for the first time, Kigali, Rwanda, then again Lagos and Casablanca. And what was your question?
So in your engagements with some of these young startups throughout these meetups, what are, if you can outline, let's say 3 to 5 main positive trends of the growing startup ecosystem? If you can outline those, what would those be?
So from my point of view as organizing these events, I must say like the turnout was amazing. So we had amazing local success stories such as Menna. We had her in Cairo, and great example of Tekea startup. I'm actually part of DevRel team. We are sitting in the startup stage, but you know, developer and startup communities are connected. So that's why you have a startup track in the Shift. So yeah, to go back a little bit about the event, amazing vibe, great startups, amazing developers.
And Marijan, if you can compare them to, let's say, other startup ecosystems, whether it's in Europe or North Africa, South America, what do you say, what do you see as some of the main advantages that young founders have from Africa?
So it's pretty vibrant community, you know. They are like, I must say, like, I did lots of events, like globally. I'm so happy that I had that opportunity to organize also events in Europe, in US, of course, here in Croatia. That's like so engaging, and I'm really happy, to travel there and to meet all the interesting, founders, to listen their success stories, and yeah, I can't wait for another tour.
Thank you, Marijan. I mean, one aspect is really kind of what you just said, Marijan, related to the success stories. Menna, there's a growing number of startups and unicorns across the continent. How do you see some of these success stories actually impacting, and even your own story, impacting younger generation of startup founders?
It's impacting me as well. So, yeah, the dream of unicorn. Everyone have this dream. Everyone want to be unicorn, but I think it has a positive impact and negative impact. The positive, I will talk about the negative first. The negative impact that you think it's you want to be unicorn. So you have an idea, you're taking a shower, you want to implement the idea. A lot of startups are starting without understanding what they need to go through. So you have not sleeping night. You have an idea that you have to crash and build a new one because it's not working. You have something called product market fit. It's very hard. And then you have to look at the product that you need to build it to scale. Like something, okay, it was working on this, like 5 people, but I needed to work on millions, So it's just not an easy, but the positive thing is that it gives you also passion. It gives you that feeling that we can do it. If someone did it, I can do it. It gives you the feeling that to think, I always say, think big. Meaning it, when was building Tequila, I was building Tequila only for Egypt. And this was the biggest mistake I ever did, because when we reached 50,000 users, everything crashed. And we have to build everything from the start because we didn't think we will reach it very soon. So it gave you, okay, I want to build something that can work in many countries, something that can scale very easy. This is the idea of startup scalability. And then how to do it, being inspired from unicorn from this perspective. But don't be just want to be unicorn based on an idea, and without having the tools that can allow you to do a healthy expansion and a healthy scale. And if you think about all of this, why not? Why you don't? I'm dreaming. I have a plan when I want to be a unicorn. I already, I wrote it down in my plans, my milestones, and I look at it every single day, a few days, to remind myself, at this day I will be a unicorn, at this day I will achieve my dream. And I did all of the milestones till now according to my plans, even though a lot of things changed, because if you don't adapt as a startup, you will never succeed. Like my idea crashed and I rebuilt it again, multiple times. So
can I ask you, in what year are you going to become a unicorn so you can come
no,
back to
this
Shift?
is confidential. You need to sign an NDA first,
But it's for me, it's fascinating because you can see that you're inspiring. Your energy is so vibrant that it's contagious. I mean, honestly, like just sitting here and hearing you speak, I can imagine that you're a point of inspiration for so many young founders. But one aspect of the startup ecosystem that I'm really curious, Antonio, kind of to take the question onto your end, is as the continent by 2050 is going to almost double in size when it comes to the population, it's all driven by youth. Do you think that some of these youth-driven innovation and startups might actually be able to tackle some of these burning issues, such as climate change and sustainability? Because essentially, these are challenges where innovation is a must. But how will a continent as large as Africa really accept that new tech?
Make sure that the demand is bigger than the supply. And that's what's happening. I think that there's a big shortfall right now in having a European-centric perspective on Africa. Africa is a massive, massive continent. The average age is really, really low. Europe is aging. the population is going to double. It's a massive landmass. And when you start understanding all the challenges that are there, the one thing we need to understand is everyone wants the lifestyle we have here. So everyone wants the basics. They want air conditioning, they want washing machines, they want access to financial services, like to have a bank account. This is what's lacking in many parts across Africa. It's not to say they are poorer, they're just at it's a different level of development. And the other thing is, it's really bad, is to talk about Africa as a whole. It's I kind of describe the flight from here to London is 2 hours. That's a flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and you're still in the same country. So it's a really massive continent. We've chosen Africa and Southeast Asia because that's where the next billion middle class is going to be coming from. We're going to see doubling of populations. There's a big need for everything. And when it comes to sustainability, we all, as a planet, we need to figure out how can we bring energy and services and products to the next 1-2 billion people at a lower or more efficiently, at a lower cost and a lower wastage than what we've been doing to now. And I think that digital is one aspect of it, by digitization, and this is what really kind of brings, I think, conferences like this here really important, is that we can solve problems on continents, or places that are far away from where we live, and still be able to make money and have impact, both environmental as well as social impact. But we can focus on the bottom line to make these initiatives work.
Thank you, Antonio. I also think that one thing that Albert said at the beginning is when people think about tech capitals and tech centers, they rarely think about Africa, of course. But the reality is quite different. We see an increase of startups that are actually driving innovation across the spectrum, whether this means governance, sustainability, and social impact. One aspect that I think is really important for the further development of the ecosystem is perhaps stronger regulation. So Menna, can you tell us, how do you think the startups driven by this youth can drive stronger regulation towards tackling, I would say in particular, focusing on aspects of green tech and food tech, and maybe even from your own example?
So give you an idea what we are doing. We are a marketplace or a software that allowing any food supplier to sell surplus grocery for a reduced price. There is a similar concept in Europe, but it's not exactly similar. Yeah, like the business model is different. And we are B2B2C, so we went up across value chain, food value chain. And when I started at the beginning, we started in Egypt. We faced a lot of, it was very challenging. And I was always thinking, okay, what like how it will be if I'm in another market and checking, and they have a regulation that forcing them to work with us. And when we started to work in UAE, it was reality, it's easier, of course. The big suppliers, the big names, they want us. We are providing them a service, and it was very hard in Egypt to convince the big supplier. It took them some time when we became famous for them to come to us. But I was talking with Antonio, and we were talking about, yes, but is it the real change, the strong regulation? It will help, but it's not the real change, because what happened in Egypt, I was always shouting with the supplier about the sustainability, the climate impact, and it was like my little son, I have 3-year-old boy, sometimes I don't understand what he's shouting about, like he wants something and I don't understand it, and I'm trying to distract him, I'm trying to say, okay, I will do it, So when you have a market that their main needs is not met, you need to think about how your product should be valuable to them. Like we call it in Tekeya triple win. Provider has more profit, consumer save money, and we save the environment. And to achieve this triple win, we have to focus on actually we were focusing on bakeries, we were focusing on restaurant, and then we focused on the main groceries, the main items that people need in daily basis. And when you actually provide a real value for people, that when they can use your product, they actually can meet their main needs, but at the same time save the environment, it just now started to become interesting. Even my pitch to the supplier started to be about how much they save and how much profit they will make before talking about the environment, and then after that increase their awareness about the environment. And this is Antonio was talking about, but regulation is not enough. And he was right, because I looked at my history. It will never be enough, because it will be like we are shouting, we're trying to force things on people that they will never use. Meantime, if we look at more advanced country we started to work with, even if the regulation forcing them, if we don't add them a real value, it will be like a show more than anything else, because not everyone, there is big suppliers that so keen about the environment, so happy to work with us, but there is other suppliers that they want to, if there's not in regulation, even in advanced market or developed market, they don't want it. So regulation is important, but also meeting the need is also important to be able to achieve what do you want to achieve from the business or the environmental impact you want to achieve.
And Antonio, I definitely want to kind of tackle on with this question with you, because I think a big question, not only in Africa, but globally, is really how do you integrate social impact within your mission that you're driven by? So how do you guys do that? I mean, what's the magic formula? And that maybe that you even spread throughout the work that you do in Africa?
So I definitely don't know what the magic formula is, but I can share my experience. We want to make, we saw there's a major problem, financial exclusion. Half the global adult population don't have access to financial services. We wanted to tackle that problem. We set out to how are we going to empower the next 100 million people to have access to financial services. I was wasting my frickin' time. What I realized is I needed a profitable business. I needed to be sustainable. I needed to add value. And when I started adding value, I started winning bigger customers. One of our bigger customers was 5 million clients. So I spent 10 years trying to get to 5 million clients, and I spent one transactioning doubling that because I was a much stronger business proposition. I wasn't trying to change the world. Now, my intentions are to change the world. My intentions are for progress. And I think it's a healthy way to live. We didn't set out as founders to become unicorns by making lots of money. We really wanted to solve a problem. And I think it's about prioritization. If you create value, then you have a business. And if that business can be successful, then you can actually do some other magic. So on the topic of regulation, I love regulation. Everyone hates it. I love it. It's a standardization. But be part of forming the regulation. So what we found is, in some cases, we work with the regulators to shape their policy. We create industry first by being the first cloud-based core banking system within the region. The regulator will talk to us and ask proactively, what can we contribute? Just today, we had a 2-hour session with the regulator in the Philippines. They're coming up with a new initiative. They're asking us for a pre-screening of what we think. And we didn't get there because we were playing with the regulators. We got there because our business had been proven in the market. We've become the market leader, and hence you start getting invited to these parties of discussion. So I think it's really important component is focus on getting the basics right. Have a proper business, have a proper idea. Stop chasing unicorns. Focus on building a great business, solving a problem, and then thinking about scaling it. And then everything else starts flowing. So, I love the stories. Like they're off to Japan to promote their products. So something's coming out of Africa, going to the most sophisticated market civilization, and they're selling to the Japanese. I'm like, that's freaking cool. That's what's coming out of Africa, and that's what we need to see more of. Is all that opportunity is just, it's a massive.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly this energy that is the equivalent of what is happening in Africa. And kind of on the forefront of all of this is Infobip. Marijan, one aspect that you guys experienced directly firsthand is that ability to maybe even pass on some of those lessons learned. Where do you see aspects of the ecosystem that needs further development, further support? And this can be formal and non-formal education. You guys are already doing a lot of this stuff. So what additional aspects of work do you see that Infobip can play within the region and really growing Africa as this next hotspot for tech?
Talking from my heart, I would say we need improvement in everything, right? It's in the human blood, right? We reach the moon, we want to reach the Mars, right? What's next? So yeah, but I think these events, what we do, even the shift, is a good add-on, like to like the regular education, academia, when you can actually hear like from the startup founders and successful developers, successful stories, and I think, like I said, it's really good add-on. So that's why we started with this. And to give you more the context about Infobip, that like we came 10 years ago to Africa and managed, in 10 years become like a leader in our what we do in Africa. And you mentioned like more offices than Google. We are covering the whole continent with the clients, and now we are happy also to share our knowledge with the startups and developers. Like we are just a few unicorns bootstrapped, to actually $1 billion company. So we are one of them. So if something we learned on our way and some technology can help other startups on their path to success, we are happy to share it.
Again, I'd love to chime in there. So we're a customer of Infobip. And one of the things I really admire about Silvio and Roberto is they started off in Croatia. They did not choose Croatia as their market. They went out and they played in the real world. And I think that there's lessons to be learned there, is go to the open market. Where did they go? They started off in Africa, massive untapped market. They went there, they sharpened their tools, they got to understand their business really well, and then they just went country by country, continent by continent. And they've really set a great example. The thing I love about them is like, well, I need a provider to send me SMS, and I don't want to have a provider per country. Great. I tap into the service. I have one supplier providing me for all of my customers in 12 different countries. And I think that's the magic of sharing knowledge, is going to these markets, leverage them, go to them and say, hey, you know what, I don't have an office. I want to go hang out in your office for 3 weeks while I open up a new market and research. That's what we need to be leveraging together to capitalize on on this market potential.
I mean, this is just the perfect example of having the three of you here. It's really about, I would say, the story started with Infobip, but it's now growing beyond. And then, Marijan, when you see, let's say, kids that are coming to some of these meetups, what is the most important thing they take out of these meetups? Do you see, is it know-how? Is it inspiration? Is it motivation? Is it contact?
Yeah, I think all of that. These events can bring to them. But I wanted also to add something. So please don't consider this what I'm talking about, the Infobip in Africa, like self-promotion. Consider this like call to like join us on that journey. So that's why like we had some couple of press releases after our couple of tours in Africa. So we are already there. It's a huge market. And if we can help you, to go to the continent, we'll be ready. We'll be happy to help you. Like, you mentioned like 10 offices. We have like around 200 colleagues working then, and us traveling. So feel free to join us.
Yeah, and use Shift as a springboard, because one, I would say, interesting point that we made earlier is whether you want to be a kind of a small fish in a big pond or the opposite. And Africa is a market is not only global, growing regionally, but it's also expanding globally. So I would like to maybe focus a little bit on the future of the ecosystem and the impact it will have. And maybe you can talk from example of the work that you're doing directly. What do you think are some of those positive areas of impact that Africa's ecosystem can bring to the global market? Menna, maybe I can kick it off with you.
I spoke at many events in Africa, and I can see that there is many leaders like coming to us talking about that what they want to change in their country. So I see the awareness increase drastically. I see the new generation is more aware of more aware of that. What does it mean ecosystem even? Because we were not aware of that. So what I think happening is that first we are getting more fund in Africa, a lot of more fund. We are getting more experienced people. We are having more a lot of opportunities. So I saw like a lot of opportunities coming. So maybe we are not improving as fast as we should in all level in all countries, because some countries now sprinting. But at least from my experience, there is a lot of things was hard and not offered before when we started, but I see it's now happening, now offered. And even if you go to, if we are talking about startup ecosystem as an example, there were like incubator or accelerator doesn't offer any value. Just the name, just they are saying there is a prize, but doesn't offer any value. Now I see more increasing the quality of the accelerator and the quality of incubator, in the quality of that, not explaining to people that not every idea can be part of it, because your idea need to happen, that you need to convince us it will work. And also I see a lot of support, to be honest. I wouldn't before, I would ask for support, but support was in paper, you know? Like not someone coming, we will, not a VC even. Now I started to see a VC coming to me and say, okay, we want to help you. No, VC before was coming that if you prove that you're profitable, you're scalable, you're going to be the next unicorn, we are with you. The minimum ticket we are having is $50 million. That was the conversation before. Now the conversation is that, no, we're looking for sustainable startups. We are we want to know what you need to scale. You know, we want to help you. We can be a venture builder, you know, with you. Like I see there is a shift, and there is a positive shift for sure.
But then, quick follow-up question is, how do you maintain that focus as that external pressure mounts on between, let's say, investors seeking you to be profitable and 3 steps behind is social impact? How do you, as a startup coming from Africa, remain focused on the areas that you want to succeed? How do you grow? Where's this like immense pressure that you have to replicate what people are doing in Silicon Valley?
Very hard question. I don't have the answer, because it's a balance. You know, you hear a comment, you hear someone is like giving you a feedback, and you feel like you want to go with it because it means more money or more profit, but might impact your core business. And then as a founder, you need to protect your business. You need to protect your startup. Protecting doesn't mean that you be stubborn and not accepting any criticizing, because if you don't listen first to the customers, they are the king and the queen, and then to people with an experience, with hand on the mud, not people like, you know, I'm an investor, but I never did anything that making me have the experience needed. If you don't listen, you'll fail. So you need to listen. I was stubborn. I wanted to protect my baby in a case that it's the idea will work, and they don't know. I think this was the start.
Survive, just survive.
And this was the most stupid thing I did ever. But now I'm listening. But you need to digest and see how it will impact your baby, you know, because that startup is your baby. You will find people in the school telling you need to raise him this way, or he has this certain issue, or you need to do, he cannot play basketball, you need to put him playing like swimming or something. And if sometimes you need to listen because it helps him grow, but the other time you need to protect him, stand for your business. I'm always saying, no, I am standing. I was in front of an investor. He was like, want to change everything, want to change the strategy, investing this little and taking this equity. And it was like out of being very well connected, you know? But I said, no, I am not a stupid woman. I am a smart woman. I am not gonna change my core. I'm not gonna change, I will defend my business. And this is how, of course, the conversation wasn't this way, like different, like very professional, but this is how you need to protect your core, protect your business, believe in yourself, but listen how you can improve.
I love that. I think key in growth is really kind of being able to put your ear on the floor and listen to your surrounding. Antonio, question to you is really kind of focusing on what do you see as the future of Africa's positive impact on the global market, especially as you work between South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa?
I see it twofold. One is the economic opportunity to solve problems at scale. So if you look at, for example, Nigeria is 180 million people. It's going to double by 2050. Then Kenya, also large population, very big economic center. So I think it's the opportunity, number one, but it's also listening to see what problems they're solving. And it's quite interesting. For example, we saw across the continent prepaid mobile phones that actually came out of a problem that people didn't have bank accounts to be able to secure mobile access. So they invented prepaid, and now we've imported that technology into the likes of Europe and so forth. Another one, for example, is because people don't have access to financial services, they want to order online. They can't buy anything online. This is where we see services being invented like pay on cash on delivery. And now, today, we see that, for example, here in Croatia, you order a pizza, gets delivered, you pay on cash. So there's a lot of innovation that we're seeing that's being coming out of emerging markets because they're solving problems in emerging markets and they're becoming convenience for us. So it's twofold. It's one, learn from there, and two is capitalize on the opportunity to solve problems there at scale.
Love that. And I know that we're a little bit beyond time. I just want to say that I'm certain that over the next decade, the focus of such panel discussions on Africa, you're going to see a much larger crowd. And if you are interested in the African global market in general, Infobip is the company to go because they are the stakeholders. They are on the ground. And Marijan is a fantastic person to connect with. So to kind of a little bit, I would say, congratulate also Infobip on being that trailblazer, because it's really difficult to penetrate a market that is not all about Silicon Valley and the Silicon Valley types. On that note, I really want to thank all of our three panelists and for everybody to joining us today. Thank you so much.